Counsel approached the bench.
You play to win. And I don't care if you don't have any win. You go play to win. When you start telling me it doesn't matter, then retire. Get out. Because it matters.
Pulls up, three-pointer. Bang! Bang! It's good! Wins the game at the buzzer!
You can't handle the truth.
All rise. Here comes the judge.
Order, order, order. Oi, oi, oi. Welcome back, everybody. Bench Points with Conlan, Farrell. Great way to start your Monday. Get you caught up with all the action sports law. Fantastic show planned for you guys today. And joining me on this episode of Bench Points is none other than Landis Barber from down there in Raleigh, North Carolina, where he's an attorney at Saffron Law. Did his undergrad at UNC Charlotte, graduated from Campbell Law. Tonight, he'll be facing his opponent, Matt Haage, out there in the windy city of Chicago. He did his undergrad in Tempe, warm Tempe, Arizona, right? He's a Arizona State Sun Devil, but now he goes to Chicago Kent College of Law, and he's also an associate counsel at ZS in Chicago. Gentlemen, welcome to Bench Points, and thanks so much for joining me. How are we doing tonight?
Doing good. Well. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Colin.
All right, guys. So we did the rebranding of the show last week with Dan Wallach and Dan Lust, the co-founders of Conduct Detrimental. All right, so today you guys join us now, and we're going to discuss some topics that often are some of the most debated across sports. And right now we're going to jump in. Topic number one, you guys know the drill, 45 seconds on the clock. And we're going to go to baseball here. Barry Bonds, not in the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, New York. And for many reasons why, but one of the key points is the admission he had of using steroids throughout his Major League Baseball career. Others are, there is a line that basically prohibits him maybe from a character standpoint. Now, Matt Haage, this episode of Bench Points, I'm going to kick it to you. Are the ethical issues that surround Barry Bonds' career enough to keep him out of Cooperstown? You start us off here, 45 seconds.
All right, so I'll start off by saying that as somebody who went to Arizona State, Barry Bonds is an ASU legend and a great baseball player. However, from an ethical standpoint, he does not belong in the Hall of Fame. You know, this is like a show where, lawyers debate, and as lawyers, we're trained to go by the letter of the law. And by the letter of the law, the character clause in the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame voting prevents him from joining. So according to the National Baseball Hall of Fame, voting shall be based upon a player's record, playing ability, integrity, sportsmanship, character, and contribution to teams on which the player played. Controversial or not, by the letter of the law, the voters are allowed to consider character and integrity when considering whether to elect somebody to the Hall of Fame or not. So keeping him out by those standards is justified, whether you like it or not.
All right. Short and sweet. Landis, your turn.
The ethical issues are not enough to keep Barry Bonds out of the Hall of Fame. In fact, so many have been inducted. So many individuals with questionable character have been inducted. It led Robert Cohen to write a book entitled Baseball Hall of Fame or Hall of Shame. I'm just going to go through a list of several people who have questionable character issues, including Commissioner Kennesaw Mountain Landis and Cap Anson, who are segregationists. Duke Snyder failed to pay income taxes. If you want to talk about cheating, fellow Campbell Camel, Gaylord Perry, Dr. Baseballs. Ty Cobb was suspected of fixing games. Mickey Mantle missed a 61 pennant race because of an infection from a needle when he was getting injected from steroids. Sandy Koufax used non-anabolic steroids for his arm. And surely there are ample others that have used steroids. So I would argue that clause has been waived, and the ethical concerns, character concerns are not enough to keep him out of the Hall of Fame.
Matt Haage, 30 seconds.
I mean, we can look at ethical issues, and I mean, you really got to look at integrity too. When somebody's cheating, there's not much you can do, and it's not fair to put cheaters in the Hall of Fame. I mean, look at somebody, if we want to compare players, look at somebody like David Ortiz. In a similar timeline in terms of career and years played, David Ortiz had 200 less home runs, over 450 less hits, and over 200 less RBIs than Barry Bonds. Yet he was a first ballot guy because he never had integrity issues or character issues.
All right. Landis, round us out. 30 seconds to you.
I understand the argument that cheaters shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. However, the fact is cheaters are in the Hall of Fame, at least as far as I discussed earlier of Gaylord Perry doctoring baseballs, Mickey Mantle possibly using steroids, Ty Cobb suspecting and fixing games. So cheaters are in the Hall of Fame. And what is the Baseball Hall of Fame's job? It's to report the history of the sport. And there's a difference between running the history of the reporting the history of the sport and the nostalgia of wishing we were those enshrined. So the ethical concerns are not enough. That has been waived, and he should be in the Hall.
All right, guys. It's a tough debate. I mean, statistically, Barry Bonds, he's a shoo-in. 7 National League MVPs, the Major League Baseball's all-time leader in home runs. Landis Barber, the point's yours. Listen, there's too many guys with other skeletons in their baseball careers closet that should consider this to be Barry Bonds has to be the scapegoat. There's too many guys with too much baggage. Put Barry Bonds in the Hall. Look at Garrett Cole, spider tack. There's so many guys that actively now who are going to have to face these issues down the line. If we don't correct this now, we're just foreseeing more issues coming in the future enshrinement. So Landis Barber, the point is yours. Round 1, moving to round 2 in the NBA playoffs. All right, guys, excellent round 1. Barry Bonds, though, belongs in the Hall of Fame, in my opinion. So Landis Barber, the point was yours. Barber holding serve here, 1-0. But let's now move to the hardwood. NBA basketball playoffs in full swing. I don't know if you can see my T-shirt there, Suns in 4. That guy needs to come back because some of these fans are getting out of line. We need to just hire this guy to start scoping people out like that security guard in Minnesota yesterday, just laying the wood. But let's start first on the competitive nature of the sport and the new expanded playoff structure that Adam Silver debuted in last year's 2021 NBA playoffs. So the question here is, has the new expanded playoff structure in the NBA effectively de-incentivized tanking? Landis Barber, go ahead. 45 seconds to you, sir.
Yes, the new 10-team tournament does effectively disincentivize tanking. What do NBA owners want? More money. How do you get more money? By going to the playoffs. How do you get more teams to the playoffs? You allow more teams into the playoffs. In 2020, the 9th place Wizards finished 7.5 games out of 8th place with 25 wins. And in the Western Conference, the Timberwolves and Warriors were not competitive with only 19 and 15 wins, respectively. Thus, based on numbers in 2020, at least 9 teams were not competing for a chance to make the playoffs late in the season. 2021, a month left in the season, 24 out of 30 teams were still competing for a chance to make the playoffs, the most they've ever had. That basically means they were within 4 games of a chance to make the playoffs. The Washington Wizards were 19 and 33 on April 10th and went 15 and 5 of their final 20. Players don't want to lose. Owners want to make money. The play-in tournament.
You're gonna have to save it. Haage, 45, and I'm gonna give you an extra couple because Landis went over by a smidge there. Go ahead.
All right. So although the spirit of the new format system kind of keeps more teams involved, it does not prevent full-blown tanking. If we look back to the seasons before the new format and before the COVID bubble, the worst records in the NBA were as follows. In the 18-19 season, the Knicks went 17 and 65. In the 17-18 season, the Suns went 21 and 61. In 16-17, the Nets went 20 and 62. This season, the worst team in the league was the Rockets, and they went, you guessed it, 20 and 62. If you look at the NBA championship teams, they all have at least, or in the last 10 years, they all have at least one high-profile NBA star. The only way to get those players is by getting those top 5 picks, and the only way to get those is by tanking.
Landis Barber, 30 seconds to you.
I agree with Matt that it doesn't fully prevent tanking, but it does effectively disincentivize tanking. As I said, in 2020, there were 9 teams late in the season that were not competing for a playoff spot. And in 2021, that was cut down to 6 teams. So is it perfect? No. But does it effectively disincentivize teams? Yes, because owners want more money, which means they want to go to the playoffs to get more money. And this allows more teams into the playoffs. Thus, it is effectively disincentivized.
I called you a little early, and Matt, I'm going to give you a couple extra. Round us out. Topic number 2.
I get the effectively disincentivizing argument. However, I got one stat for you. So 4 teams in the NBA playoff history have ever advanced past a 1 seed as an 8 seed. So I just don't really see a 9 or a 10 seed, or like if you're on the bubble and you're kind of excited about getting involved in the playoff hunt, I just don't see the argument for a 9 or a 10 seed wanting to chase the money over, being a first round exit and maybe 4 or 5 playoff games. It's just not there for me. So I don't see it, and I'd rather be in last place than in 10th place at that point.
All right, Matt, rounding us out right there. And so, Landis, I like how you played a little bit there to call the question, effectively de-incentivizing, not solving the solution. But Matt Haage, the point's going to go you here. We're going to be even at 1, and here's why. I think you know what you said about getting NBA superstars and getting in that top 4 or 5 draft lottery. It's extremely important. And so, teams like the NFL, when the whole tank for Tua, tank for Trevor, all that, teams across the NFL, the Jaguars, the Miami Dolphins, they know that going into the season they're bad. So tanking is basically, it's not 4 or 5 teams, but 1 or 2 that are really, really bad. So I don't think this effectively de-incentivizes it enough. Their teams can still do it and still get that high draft pick. So I'm going to go even at 1. Matt Haage, you're going to save face there. 1-1. Good stuff from both of you. Matt Haage winning the second point when we discussed the NBA and the new playoff structure. But, hey, it doesn't get rid of tanking enough. So I like Hage's argument. He wins round number 2. Now you can see I got my uncut gems, the bifocals, how I can read the double breakers and cash some tickets. And this is coming from you live now, our third segment from the Bench Points Resort and Casino, where I am taking all your action, cashing your tickets. So here, we'll have a little fun. State the line. Now we got a little spring football, the USFL. Now coming into full swing here in their second week. Crowds up and down. We see a lot better attendance out of the South. Birmingham, I know they looked like they had a halfway decently full stadium. Up north, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia game I saw a couple days ago. Atrocious. There was maybe 1,000 people in that stadium. So we'll state the question as such. State the line. The likelihood that either the USFL or the XFL, which The Rock is now heading up, will be around in 5 years, around in 2027. You guys, I want you to create a number in your head, money line, and defend it. So Haage, you won round 2. Why don't you kick us off here? 45 seconds to you.
All right, I'm going to set the line at a rather long shot. I'm going to go plus 400, or about an implied 20% odds that it'll be around in 5 years. So it seems like these spring leagues pop up every few years, and they seem to mostly be gimmicks. In 2019, the AAF suspended operations after 8 weeks of a planned 10-week season. Then they ceased to bankruptcy. In 2020, the XFL shut down after 5 weeks, and although they had COVID to blame, their original season in 2001 that everybody loves to talk about, that failed after, I think, 5 games as well. So the only one that was remotely considered successful was the old USFL, which lasted 3 seasons from 1983 to 1985. And that was back when a time when the NFL was far less popular than it is now.
Ooh, you're going to have to recap that in your 30. Landis, 45 to you.
I'm going even money here, and it's because I believe in the XFL. They've got 2 things now. They've got leadership and they've got money. Look at their leadership. They're led by The Rock. Everything he touches turns to gold, including his latest Terramana tequila brand. They've got Kevin LaForce of Redbird Capital leading planning and business implementation for the XFL. He joins Redbird and the XFL after a 14-year career with the NFL. Russ Brandon is the new league president, a former managing partner and president of the Buffalo Bills. Speaking of Redbird Capital, that's their significant investor, $5 billion in assets, including stakes in Fenway Sports Group and Liverpool Soccer Club. So they've got money, they've got leadership, and in February they signed a partnership agreement with the NFL on innovation programs for new rules and different things.
Matt Haage, 30 to you.
Look, if all we've seen is the most successful spring league was 3 seasons, I just don't think we've seen sustained enough success for me to be confident with one of these being around in 5 years. I mean, I don't know. I'd sprinkle some money on plus 400. Maybe The Rock gets it together and gets it out to 2027, but I'm just not confident with the best we've seen is 3, and most of them don't even make it past 1 season.
Landis, round us.
People always believe it can't be done until it's done. And like I said, they've gotten a new agreement with the NFL. They're working with the NFL, and that's the key. They're not trying to be competition. In addition, like I said, or like Matt said the USFL, former USFL ended in bankruptcy. XFL ended in bankruptcy. They've got money now. Money talks. $5 billion in assets from Redbird Capital, money, leadership, and working with the NFL. It smells of success. It'll be done. They'll be here in 5 years.
All right. And here we are, like the reveal at the end of a Sunday Night Survivor episode. Plus 200. So Landis Barber, you're going to sneak it. You're going to take, I'll give you the even money, right? You had plus 100. So Matt Haage, a little further off, a little farther down the line. No, again, I'm not confident enough to take even money on that. I need a little bit of juice. So plus 200, that's where I'll set it. The biggest thing, the sticking point there is simply the leadership group surrounding the XFL. I think USFL, if you were to say it would be the USFL be around in 2027, absolutely not. That line should be set at minus. If they're around next week, I'll be shocked. I do think there's a chance with Dwayne The Rock Johnson, with Redbird. There's significant money involved. And like you said, you're not trying to compete with the NFL, almost trying to be like a farm system for the NFL where they guys can prove themselves, get extra work in that offseason, and maybe make a practice squad, make a special teams unit in the coming fall NFL season. So I do think it's possible. That wraps us here. Bench points. Landis Barber, you down there in Raleigh, North Carolina, are this week's champion. Well done, Woo! Matt Haage, a worthy opponent. But that doesn't finish us. We have one more segment to go. Contempt of Court. Didn't have it last week, but it's back this week. And who it is the absolute disgraces that were shown this past week on two different sporting events. One coming in the Yankees game Saturday against Cleveland Guardians, and then once on Saturday night in the NBA playoffs, Minnesota Timberwolves and Memphis Grizzlies. We'll show you the tape first, and then I'm going to give a little 60-second speech on why you should be embarrassed, as Sebastian Maniscalco would say. All right, here we go. This is in the Bronx on Saturday.
Throw stuff at him. And he's like, yeah, big guy, you want to talk tough from up there and throw stuff. Unbelievable. Well, yeah, you got to walk away from it. You can't, you're going to have them, they're going.
So that's in the Bronx
right,
on Saturday. This is Minnesota.
What's going on here? Oh, wow. Somebody's run onto the floor. Beverly goes into the front row on the other line with these people.
And then they got the friend, of course, who was reporting.
Somebody else here who's trying to go after Taylor.
All right, so I'm just going to get hot real quick because I've seen just about enough of this. Okay, so if you're a fan of a team, right, and you buy your tickets to go to the game, right, and especially in the Bronx, as a Yankee fan, I'm disgraced and embarrassed. Listen, these people that have the absolute nerve to throw debris and trash on a field where they can potentially injure players because they think, the Yankees walked it off all celebration, and they didn't like the fact that Miles Straw, the Guardian center fielder, had gotten into it in the prior batter because he was helping one of his teammates who had run into the wall, and the Yankees fans were chirping him a little bit. Chirping's fine. Throwing stuff onto the field, debris, beer, whatever, is absolutely not. And just because these people who think they have some power now because they're up top in the stands and not at their dead-end job at Radio Shack selling refurbished VCRs, you see these guys on the street, they would turn and walk away. These professional athletes would beat them like Grand Canyon mules if they came face-to-face. But they actually have the nerve, because they think they're not going to be touched and they're untouchable, to act like this is cowardly and it's pathetic. Okay, that's the Bronx. So you people, again, Yankee fan myself, utterly embarrassed by the display of behavior that happened there on Saturday. Now, these chicken lunatics, let's go to them in Minnesota, because Minnesota Timberwolves have become the limelight for these protesters who are protesting inhumane treatment of chickens by the Timberwolves owner. But again, these ladies now, another one who, where I think this woman's going to hurt Ja Morant by running into him? Probably not. He tries to avoid her, twists an ankle, blows a knee out. Again, you want to picket outside the arena, whatever, prior to coming into the game, that's fine. Don't even come to the game. Don't bother. When you start doing that, what I do love, though, and I'm going to turn this sound down a little bit. It's a little loud. But let's go back real quick here and just watch the reaction time of the security guard. He sees her start to go and just look at her. There she is. and just boom, like filling an A gap. Ray Lewis on third down just blows her up. You know what I mean? I wish there was they still had that segment on Monday Night Football, jacked up, because that lady would have been right on center cut for it. So that's it. If you go to a game, a sporting event, reminder, the players that are participating, even from the opposing team, are human. Act with some class, because if you see these guys on the street, you wouldn't say boo to them. So keep that in mind the next time you start chirping a professional athlete, because you're upset with your own life. All right, well, it was fun, guys. Landis Barber, again, this episode's champion here on Bench Points, always brought to you by Conduct Detrimental, your leader